I want to share something personal with you today. Something that happened to me when I was just 4 years old that would shape the rest of my adult life. It was the moment that I had my first paranormal experience and I knew that this was real. My grandmother used to babysit my cousin and I. We were about the same age, and this would have been around 1986. We were 4 years old, I do remember that. We would go to her house pretty much every day except for the weekend. And this was a beautiful spring day. I can remember the sunshine. It was still mid-morning, probably around 9, 10, 10:30 a.m. And we went out on the porch like we had done 1,000 times before. The house my grandmother lived in, which actually sits about a tenth of a mile from where I'm at right now. I can almost see it out this window. It's an older house. It's built probably in the 1940s, 50s. And my mother was actually born here. It's still a nice house. It's older, but it's been well maintained. It's a 2-story house. The upstairs was mainly used for storage. No one since my uncle, when he was a teenager in the probably 1970s, had really stayed up there. It was just kind of used for storage. My cousin and grandmother and I had went on the porch because my aunt at that time worked night shift. She still lived at home. And she had just got home and in bed, so I think my grandma took us out there just so we wouldn't wake her up. But I'll never forget this day. Again, I can see it in my mind's eye 40 years later. We're playing on the porch. My cousin and I were playing with some kind of toy. And after a little while, we decided there was this one particular ball that we wanted to play with. It was about the size of a soccer ball or a volleyball. And it was in the toy box that my grandmother stored all the toys in, which sat at the bottom of the steps. After a few minutes of going back and forth, I finally agreed I would go in and get this ball that we wanted to play with. You have to keep in mind also, I had been in and out of my grandma's house 1,000 times, even at 4 years old. I was very comfortable there. I had never experienced anything paranormal there or anywhere for that matter. I had never seen a ghost. Never thought about ghosts. But I remember opening the screen door. I walk inside, hardwood floors. My aunt's in the next room over in her bedroom asleep. So I'm trying to stay quiet as I make my way through my grandma's bedroom to where the stairs are. So there was a step up from the ground floor level to the bottom platform of the stairs, if that makes sense. And on that platform was a huge box. That's where she kept all of her toys. The staircase itself, the wooden stairs, were very narrow. It was very tight, just enough room to walk. A very tight place. I make my way to the toy box. I start leaning over inside. It was a big box. I'm throwing toys, looking for this one ball that we just had to have. And as I'm sifting through all the toys and all the games, I remember the hair started to stand up on my neck. I began to get chill bumps on my arms and pretty much all over my body. I knew in that moment, at 4 years old, I knew something or somebody was watching me. I didn't hear my aunt. She hadn't got out of bed, or at least I didn't think she had. I didn't hear the door open, so I knew my grandma nor my cousin had came in. But I knew somebody was watching me. And I'll never forget, I'm down in this toy box. The whole upper part of my body is bent over, and I'm frozen at this point. I raise up, and I immediately know to look above me. And standing directly above me, which at the time it seemed a little farther away, I guess because I was younger and much smaller. Now I know that I was probably within 3 foot or so of this, what I seen. But standing, leaning over the railing at the top of the steps, I'll never forget, he had his hands on the railing, leaning over, looking at me, was this older man, 60 to 70-ish. He had on like what I know now to be like Victoria era style clothing, like a suit. He had on a top hat, a little monocle, glass like they wore, just a little monocle, a very well-kept, neat gray beard, and he had his hands on the rails, like so, looking over at me. I'll never forget it. We locked eyes. I had never seen this man in my life. And I knew at that age, even though I didn't understand the paranormal, I did know what ghosts were, or at least I thought I did. I had heard of ghosts. I knew that's what I was looking at. But the weird thing is, this man was not transparent. He was not see-through. He was not smoky or foggy looking. He looked like a man. This was a full-body apparition that looked as solid and as real as I look right now. I was confused because this looks like a man. You know, at that age, I thought of a ghost, like a bed sheet with the eye holes cut out. But I knew this was something paranormal. But he did not move. He did not say a word. I don't even remember him blinking. But he just stood there with his hands on the railing. And he was slightly leaned over, looking at me. And we held eye contact, I'm guessing for a matter of seconds. It felt like an eternity. Until something snapped me out of it. And I remember at that point I ran back, told my grandma, I seen a ghost or a man upstairs. And I'll be completely honest with you, I don't even remember if she got up to check. Probably not, or if she did, not in that moment. But there would have been no man there. This was 110% not a person. There wasn't a way to exit the house other through the door we were at. One of the most common paranormal entities, and I did not know this at the time, many years later, is the Hat Man, which is what I often refer to this guy as, the Hat Man, because he had the top hat. I refer to him as the Monopoly Man. That's what I think of kind of when I see this guy in my mind. Except he was a slender build. He wasn't chubby or short. He was just kind of a slender, older guy. And he was just staring at me. I do believe it is one of the manifestations of Hat Man. Usually, Hat Man appears as just like a shadow person. Just, you can see the outline, the top hat, and some people say like a cloak or a trench coat type deal. But I seen the suit. This guy had on a full 3-piece suit with his top hat. He and I locked eyes, and that was 40 years ago. I'm now 44 years old. I was 4 years old when that happened, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. Some people have told me that it was probably a dream or I made it up, but I can remember throughout my entire life, from the time I was 4 till now, 40 years later, what I seen. This wasn't a dream, but it unlocked something in me. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt now that ghosts were real. As a child, I would tell ghost stories or talk about ghosts to my parents or other adults, and they would just tell me it's all in your head, it's your imagination, there's no such thing as ghosts. There are ghosts, but ghosts are not what we think they are. I've covered this in other videos, but just quickly, for those of you who haven't heard me say what I believe, ghosts are demons. Demons will manifest as people, sometimes familiar spirits. They may look like a loved one or a friend, relative. They can look pretty much any way they want. But this guy, I did not know. I haven't seen him since. I hope I never do. But if I do, I hope my camera is recording. So, I want to know in the comments, what was your first paranormal experience? Have you ever seen a ghost, a monster, a cryptid, Bigfoot, aliens? Let me know in the comments. Also, please like this video, subscribe, and turn on all notifications. That's the best way you can support me and what I do. And you can also follow me over on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook as The Supernatural Sleuth. Or if you have your own story, picture, or video you would like to share, you can email me at thesupernaturalsleuth@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day. God bless. I'll see you soon.